one point I want to make about the coaches, and I'll use the Chiefs as an example, but then I close the page now. But from like it was like 2007 on, Chiefs had a lot of losing seasons, 4 wins, 7 wins. They got Andy Reid turned around. Right. I think you have to get a real coach. Okay.
I agree.
Andy Reid had coached the Eagles for 12 years, got to the Super Bowl. They went and got a real coach. They didn't try to find some 27-year-old offensive whiz kid and like, oh, he's the next great thing. Because a lot of times they fall flat on their face, right? Go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was going to say, we kid around. I said I'd hire Bud Grant, Vikings Super Bowl 4, but, if you're a team that needs a coach right now, and let's say Tom Coughlin was interested in coaching, go out and get Tom Coughlin. He's a real coach.
I agree.
Don't get the Cowboys offensive coordinator that's 31 years old or something nonsense. A lot because that doesn't work. Like the Giants. Oh, let's find the next Bill Belichick. Let's get an obscure special teams coach and he studied under Belichick. Well, the guy's a clown. All right, go out and get. I'm not sure these guys want to coach, but go try to talk to Bill Cowher or go get
Joe Johnson.
Huh?
Joe Johnson.
He's too old, but
what? But Grant's not too old, Joseph.
It's already been
around with that.
It's already been.
I'm saying get a real coach.
It's already been proven that guys that come from the Patriots don't make good coaches.
Right.
We've seen that.
But my thing with that's a great plan if you want to win for a couple. If you want to be good for a couple of years, but what makes a lot of these teams we're talking about so good is they have coaches who stick around for decades. All these Andy Reids, Bill Cowhers. They have to start at some point. At some point, somebody took a chance on a young Andy Reid, and he was the Eagles coach for 15 years.
That's true too.
I mean, if you want to be good for a couple years, do what you said. But what if you're thinking, hey, we want to have the next Andy Reid. We want to have a guy who's going to be with us for 20 years. I mean, like,
okay, well then
you gotta at some point you gotta take a chance on a younger
guy.
Right,
but then you better be right.
Well, I know.
I don't know. Some teams get it right. I guess
all these guys start as young coaches. Andy Reid,
John Harbaugh.
I think he's
he
one.
Came out of nowhere. Mike Tomlin. He was nobody.
And what was John Harbaugh in the draft? He was a special teams coach. So you can't hate on the Giants for attempting that.
But here's something that we're forgetting that we'll never know the answer to. But I think it goes a long way. You mentioned Andy Reid. The Chiefs were no good until they got Andy Reid. Back, you guys don't remember this, but back when Bill Parcells coached the Patriots in the mid-'90s, remember he took them to the Super Bowl against the Packers. Okay. And part of this was his ego, but part of it makes a lot of sense. When he decided to leave the Patriots, it was before the Super Bowl, he said, if you want me to cook the dinner, you ought to let me shop for the groceries. His point was, you want me to build a good football team, you got to let me have some say in the players I'm getting. Mm-hmm. That's part of coaching. In other words, maybe the reason Andy Reid was so good is that maybe their general manager was good enough to say, hey, Andy, who do you like? You see, there's got to be a communication between the coach and the general manager when they make a pick, right? You can't just pick a guy and say, here, Nathan, coach him, okay? There's got to be communication there, okay? Same with the owner. He's got to sit down with the general manager and say, do you have everything you need? Who are you thinking about picking? Have you consulted Andy? Have we talked? That's what the good franchises, I think, have. The Steelers, the Packers, the Chiefs now. And we'll never see that because we're not behind the scenes.
See, those kind of environments you think are what give birth to the Parcell type coaches or the Bill Cowhers or those type of coaches.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't hate just this idea. You could go 5 years at a time recycling these older coaches who had nearly in their career. That's not a bad idea.
Look what the Redskins did years ago. They brought back Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, they did.
Now, so that proves Nathan's point a little bit. They had a 3 or 4 year run where they made the playoffs a couple times.
But then get another Joe Gibbs type.
Yeah, right.
Get Marv Levy right after him. Right?
Marv Levy's 95.
No, but back then though they could have done that, right?
He was like 80 back then. But
Paul, you can go from older great coach to older great coach.
They don't have to be old. Like Andy Reid wasn't that old. He just happened to become available. I mean,
right, but you could go if you needed to. You could go from an older coach 5 years at a time. That's
but you see another problem we have here too.
Jeff Fisher. Go out and get Jeff Fisher. He's a real coach, as far as I'm concerned.
I think his time in LA really hurt him.
You got to have the players though too. I mean, no coach is going to stand up in front of the media after they lost their third game in a row and say, we just don't have the players, right? They're not going to say that. So that's why. Well, but that's what they should say. But that's why the frustration of Shermer last 2 years saying we're going to go back to work. That's why Joe Judge knows he has no players. They got nobody. Okay, but Right, but my point is that's where the frustration comes in. The fans then hear that and they say, "What's wrong? Fire the coach. We got to have."
Well, what would you like Joe Judge to say in the press conference?
I would like him to say, "Look, okay, guys, we're a young football team. We really don't have enough players to compete right now. Okay, we're trying to develop the ones we have, but it's going to take a while to do that. All right, that's what you got to say."
Okay.
Shermer tried to say it a little bit, but he couldn't. Okay, they don't have the players now. Part of it is coaching, but it takes a while to coach young players to get them to the point where they can be good. And then you make mistakes. They've probably made some mistakes.
I'm not saying I disagree with that, but would you be okay then with the quarterback like Daniels might come to press conference? Listen, guys, we just don't really have the people in place in the front office right now, and the head coach that's going to help us win. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to be able to improve until we really get a good GM and a coach. But until then, I'm trying my best. But once we get a good coaching staff,
a player can't say that.
But a coach can say about the players.
He's not calling out any players, though.
But the coach is not calling. But the player's not calling out anybody specific. He's just saying we need a better front office.
Yeah, but
take out the coach.
But how many guys are in the front office? I mean, 3 or 4. I mean,
we need a better organization. I need a better organization around me to really succeed. How's it different than saying we need better, more established players around us?
Okay, touche. I'll give you that. All right, you're right.
I'm just saying.
No, you're right. You're exactly right.
If the coach said that, that sounds really great. But if a player says that, you probably wouldn't like that.
Probably not. You're right. I mean, touche. I'll give you that point.
But you might like it, but people wouldn't.
Yeah, that's the problem though, is that they don't have any players. But then that goes back to our discussion. Then the general manager comes into play. You know, I mean, you got to.
I think we're just talking in circles.
Yeah,
well,
probably should wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. All right.